Yes, so I'm going to say first thank you for coming here. I know there are other options, but in this time and space that we are gathering here, it's significant for me, it's important for me, and thank you for being here. So I'm going to be talking about paranormal experiences with mental health. I am a licensed clinical mental health therapist. That's my background. Of course, I have undergraduate psychology and all those things, but I chose the route of mental health mostly because of counseling to work with trauma. So I work with complex trauma, complex PTSDs, and all that thing. Also living in a world of in-betweens. So I'm going to talk more about that. So today's presentation is more about conversations. So stop me anytime you'll have a question or a thought. I like my presentations to be interactive than just presenting, right? And kind of coming out from the clinical mindset, so that the grounding is here. If you want to kick off your shoes and relax and just zen or zone out, that is also acceptable because the communication for me comes in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try. We'll see if it stays
So
on.
much easier.
We'll see if it stays on.
Leave that off.
We may kick that on.
Good. Is it getting cooler? Too cold?
I'm trying to make it so
No.
it's cold.
So it's cold, okay.
I think it's the heat's kicking up.
And there could be temperature changing in the room too. Paranormal, so we do not know. Let's be prepared.
But it's quiet.
Right? Yeah. So coming back to the interaction, let's kind of keep it. So feel free to stop me anytime. I love the questions, the interruptions. It helps me to think and to zone in different dimensions that I work in. And I'm intentional not to be in the cognitive space because we have had quite a bit of presentations and really reporting. For me, I'm trying to find my way in this world, navigating my way in this world, and also trying to help people who are like us, who need the help not to be diagnosed. So the whole topic about misdiagnosis, that's the concept I've been working with. And to talk more about me and my experiences, but just kind of what I want to talk about this. I just in December defended my dissertation.
Yeah.
So I'm freshly minted PhD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I'm also recognizing it in all my sensitive part and the information that I'm receiving, that I'm actually stepping into my 4th stage in this lifetime. I do not know what that means, but this is what I keep hearing and sensing. So it's very interesting that my first presentation as a PhD is this, right? And in a space that I was told is going to be safe for me. So I actually prayed before the days began for the place for me to be safe to present. Where am I going with this? I'm actually sharing this because I feel it's very relevant, especially because the population that I work with, we don't often talk about our experiences. We are hidden. So kind of me hiding from in the background and coming forth as experiences, okay? Let's take a moment just to kind of decompress and kind of just switch off our brain, our mind, the light. I can see light bulbs over here. It's okay to lower that and just drop into your heart. And whatever you can receive in this presentation and this weekend that you spent here to help you all continue with your journey moving forward. And welcome back. Can you hear me? Okay. I can speak louder. I have a loud voice.
There's also a mic here if you want.
Yeah, it's okay. I do a lot of moving in actions. Okay. So the question I'm posing for y'all is, what extraordinary or paranormal experiences have you experienced? Whatever pops in your mind at the moment. And was there ever a time in your life that you actually, didn't share with that information with anyone? Nobody knows about it yet. Sometimes we journal about it, but sometimes we don't even journal about it, right? So think about that space. I'm stepping into like a world like that when we don't have an opportunity, we don't feel safe to talk about it, right? Okay, so about me. So you're going to hear quite a bit of my story. And I'm a storyteller. If you've noticed that, I move along with my hand, my body. because language is also in our actions, in our body, right? And I loved what Jeff said earlier. It kind of gave me the freedom to speak too. I was like, okay, yeah. So for me, I'm going to be talking about me as an experiencer, who I am as a professional, as a human being. I'm going to keep the professional let low, more about being a human being within experiences, my life at the moment. That's what it is. I have a history of complex trauma, from complex trauma working through the complex PTSD. I'm just emerging from that. And yes, it takes decades and decades of time to go to the deeper world. In the shamanic world, we call the underground, right? All that and other dimensions. So as far as I can remember, I had created a timeline for myself recently to check on my spiritual experiences. And I was blown away because I have clear memory when I was 3.5 or 4 years old. And for that memory to pop up, like I was like, whoa, what has my life been like? Experiencing that life and experiencing life as a human being. So you see the separation really, right? So I'm looking into, just not in psychology, in the part of moving towards healing. And my focus is also a lot with community-based. How do we take this big scientific things and break it down to the community, right? Because the community does not get the information to take the surveys, to do all those things, and we do have information for people who are educated and are able to take that or know that they can take a survey if they click on something, and some people are not. Does that mean that they do not have experiences? They do, right? Okay, so my constant sense of belonging, the struggle has been real. With the sense of belonging comes a lot of mental health concerns, issues, right? And I'll be talking about that because I have a survey to talk. It's almost a survey is validating my experiences. So it's very interactive, okay? And I had to adapt against my will in so many different ways. As a human being experiencing trauma, and as a person experiencing this interdimensional space that I had no concept of, but it was normal for me, right? So that part of that. And of course, we share that, ooh, that's the weird Caroline. I don't need to be talking to her next day. And kid you not, that has happened to me in different settings, even professional settings too. I send out emails, they're like, ooh, crickets, 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 till the crickets stop cricketing, right? So that, and I just learned this term social suicide yesterday, and career suicide. Those terms, how to kind of put the language to it. Yes, you speak up and you talk, then where are you going to be having the spaces for you to feel safe or for you to be taken seriously? Because I love research. So as a researcher, you need to be taken seriously too, right? So all this layers to that, okay? And finding the language for my experience. I am finding kind of a couple of words that stood out to me that can validate my experiences, but not all. And especially this conference too. So I guess my journey is going to be, okay, let's decode Caroline in the next phase of her life, right? And I'm going to be finding my language. And as I was listening to Jeff too, the language I feel for me needs to resonate with me. I need to feel it. Just don't give me a word. Oh geez, I'm feeling it emotionally right now. Just don't give me a word and put me in a box. I need to decide if that word resonates with me, right? So that is what I've been doing. And then I learned the term about neurodivergent. Am I neurodivergent, or again, am I being put in a box, right? But I do have quite a bit of quirky things that I do with my inner world that has, it has impacted, I will not say right now, I'm just hearing in many different ways. I was about to say it impacted my parenting, but I'm just getting information, and I'll be very transparent with y'all. When I say I'm receiving and I'm hearing, just to see like how it looks like. I'm actually doing this for me to break out of that the shell that I was put in. And as I asked for this environment to be safe to help with the transition. So basically y'all are witnessing my transition as I am too. Okay? Yeah. And I learned this word today, that's why I updated it from Christine, the transliminal. Example, what you just experienced right now, and I said, I received this information. You see, I am here, present, doing my things, which I had to learn the hard way to be in this world, as in the physical world, as a therapist, as a clinician, as a human being, and also being like a receiver and going in back and forth. That gave me the language today. Today, can you imagine that, right? Okay, and the metacognitive ability. Another part of it, I am a clairvoyant. I'm a medium. These are just the words that we used, right? But I have quite a bit of clairs that I am actively in that space. But my very first go-to is like, oh, okay, that's the information I received. And I'm a visual person too. So I think about children when they're visual learners. Has anyone looked into that? How are they receiving the information, right? You see, there's so many multiple layers to that. And I have been actually resisting and fighting research just to label and find and say, this is what's happening with you. As a therapist, I fight the diagnosis, the DSM is not my friend, right? Because I want to help people who ever walk to my door and help the community most, I have forced myself against my will again to adapt to receive, to take insurance so that I could just help them, right? And someone has spoken about it the other day about energy work. I think it was yesterday. I think it was John. And I'm arguing about one point that he said, that everyone cannot get the services that we need, right? So I'm looking from top bottom and bottom up as I'm kind of talking about it, right? So that is about me, and more things will come up as we go. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the definitions because we kind of know more or less what this means, and let's go with the more or less feelings or sensation rather than putting it again in a category. As I said, my human self in the researcher in me is kind of fighting the category. And as I said again, this is my first day of the transition, as I counted. I'm going to see where it goes. So you guys might be witnessing my journey, right? As I am too, okay? So exceptional human experiences, when I learned about that, I felt heard and I felt seen. Paranormal, okay, keeps us away because, ooh, you're so woo, like this is not right. You able to hear me? Okay, should I get the microphone? Yeah.
If you can.
Okay, I can.
Be great.
Yes. Is it on?
Yes,
Hello. Okay. Okay. So the word paranormal has, I have learned to keep it away because of what I've been told and what I was taught to do. Oh, we don't talk about it. That's not normal. Oh, that's so out of our Catholic model. I was raised Catholic. I kid you not. I was the one who used to faint in the church at a particular time of the service. I was known for that. I will dissect that sometime in my life to see what it was. And it became kind of an unspoken joke around people, like, okay, there is the devil's possession and she's fainting, right? Not understanding what my world looks like. That was one thing. And if I told yes.
I'm also Catholic. What part of Mass? I'm just.
Okay, Matt, you know.
Okay.
Yes. And the preparation of the Eucharist,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
And I will tell you what, I need to have a sabbatical to kind of go and revisit myself to see what was happening. So when I would sit in front of me, I would kind of read people. So I would kind of see their aura, see their energies, and I also knew some of them as human beings in the community were not good people. I'm really not good people, if I could go into the stories, right? And the church, and like I was taught, right, first of all, we're all sinners. And I'm trying to have the concept as a child who's experiencing trauma in the background too, right? And I think that the confusion of that, I'm seeing these people, if you're going to receive the Holy Spirit, I'm trying to figure out how are you working when I can read and see your mind just before you receive that. And I think that kind of speaks more to me, so I have to sit down with that. That is like, have to be in a different world for me to go to that processing. But that has been my experience. But as for the community, I am the one who's to faint, so I have a problem. You see? Even my family would do that. Every time I would talk about my experiences, my mom would, I think she would see it was escalating. She would take me, run to the priest and say, she needs the holy water. So I would be blessed, right? And I would sit down there. It became a joke between my siblings. in Crazy Caroline, in a whole weird world, we had just watched the movie, the first movie, The Exorcist. I was underage completely. Okay? First of all, I'll give you a context. I'm Portuguese Indian, my heritage, my lineage, but I was raised in India, in Goa. Okay? So the state of Goa is different from the other places in India. So that's one story. There's a lot of cultural components that we need to pay attention to when you're working with someone, right? And it's so very Catholic based, but yet we were like in Hinduism and Muslim, Islam was going on in the background. So there's a lot of other things that needs to be unpacked right there. That's my journey that I'll be planning to step into. So I was that one who had the devil on her shoulders more than the God on her shoulders, right? Yeah, so I had to, finding my way, I reached America. As a kid, I knew that I would be here. And I have no explanation till now. I just knew I would be here. Even so that when there were any Olympic Games happening, I would support USA, then India, and I would get smacked by my siblings and friends for being a traitor, right? So that part. So I'm sharing this to kind of give you a little glimpse of my internal world, how it has been, and to kind of be here in this. I'm just so sorry, but I have to say what I heard. I heard a mechanical world. To be in a mechanical world, when I have to be not myself, instead being others, right? Okay, so there is much. Still, we have so much research to be done. And I think we're just beginning to. And the way I look at research is getting to know people more and bringing it to the community and having this conversation. And I love what Amber is doing, her paranormal investigation. We need to normalize those things and not hide it and think of it as a negative thing. Because there are people like me and people like who are more in tune than me experience that on a regular basis, right? Okay, and those stats was what got me interested in my study. Okay, so paranormalizing, again, we know how it is, however those words fit for y'all. When I got an opportunity, when I got invited for this event, I was like, ooh, I was nervous. I was very nervous the week coming into this weekend. Not because I nervous to present, it's nervousness of the changes or the newness, stepping into something new, right? So that picture is actually, I painted that. Well, I'm not I don't consider myself an artist, but I've learned to do my artwork. I'm going to take a step to tell you, this experience actually came from a psychedelics experience, from psilocybin, a macro dose. Because of my sensitivity, I make sure that I have a medical doctor next to me. And why I went into psychedelics without having any experiences. My dissertation topic was on psychedelics, spiritual emergence, like spirituality and complex trauma. And I did 3 years of field work, intensive training. So I'm trained as a psychedelic assisted therapist right now. So I'm also trained to hold ceremonies and all those things in that space to go to. But psychedelics is just one of the medicines in life. That's how I look at it. That is where I'm now. So my reality that I was trying to run away from and escape and not sharing who I was kept coming in my psychedelics experiences. The very first one from not having any kind of experience, besides like alcohol, okay, psychedelics. I got invited to visit a temple in Peru. And when you go to Peru, you know it's about ayahuasca. And I intentionally did not do any research or to learn about people's experiences because I wanted to just go and feel the place. So when I say feel the place, it's not with psychedelics. Feel the place as how I present myself. And I had lengthy conversations with the founder and the shamans too that I'm not going into medicine space, and they just laughed at me. For you to be here all these places. I went because I was sponsored. I would have not made the trip. And then when I went into the medicine space, when I was pushed by an unknown entity to go, we were in a circle, we were 22 people, And when it came to my time, I'm like, okay, I know I'm not doing this, and I'm just so relaxed. Till something just came and pushed me forward, and I tripped. I was sitting down and I tripped. And that's when I went with the shaman. They were just laughed and they said, we knew this. So I went for a very, very, very tiny dose. And when my first experience was working through all the stuff that ayahuasca shows, it kept taking me to my spiritual deeper and deeper and deeper. And since I'm already kind of used to it, I felt safe, but I did feel out of control because of the psychedelics, but I felt safe in that world. So in the spirit world, I feel safer than I feel safer in the human world. I feel safer. That was another time when I did psilocybin my first time. So all those things, we cannot zoom it up like that, right? The picture? Okay. All those things that you'll see in that picture, if I tune in, this is the things that I can see and I work with. That's the time this happened 2024, that I decided to step more into my weirdness, okay? And I say weirdness with flowers and pretty bows at this moment. Okay. All this energy, and I do a lot of ancestral work that works with the earth and stuff. I don't know how to explain that. Again, the language part of it, what word to put for it, right? So my language is through my body and through the artwork that I just started creating. If I had not had that, through my experiences, I have learned not to believe myself. If I had not done that painting, I would have lost that memory, right? Okay? So I'm going to go to my study. Last May, I had got an invitation to speak about this topic. And as a speaker, I was like, hey, I need to look for stats. So I'm looking for stats in my researcher mind. And what I wanted to speak about, there was no stats for that. I just want, just give me those numbers. I don't want too much detail, right? And the university that I had attended is not about all these things. For them, they were, okay, Caroline is coming, we need to go away. Yes, I've experienced that. I've experienced my professors asking me, are you levitating yet, Caroline? Are you levitating yet, right? And, all that stuff that we can go into. Okay, so this is for my research. For my research, I wanted to know people experiences level of trust in mental health professionals. That is what I wanted to know. Just people who experience this, their level of trust in mental health professionals. And I wanted to know how many had near-death experiences, Kundalini awakening, and psychedelics experiences. So this percentage, they're very fine. I'm sure you cannot see. And some people were unsure. There was 12%. Near-death experiences, we said 14%. Kundalini awakening, I put them in a cluster. That was 48%. And trauma and life transitioning was 38%. And spiritual experiences can come through any of this, like through yoga. Yeah, there you go. You can see it better now. Some of them are unsure. So these are raw data. I have not processed that. I have not analyzed it. I just pull it off from Qualtrics and put it in my slide to share. So that is work that has to be done. And I also have 32 interviews to process, analyze for my dissertation that is not processed yet. Okay, if you can scroll it down a little bit there. Just, I want to kind of, that first picture and the second picture, what I witnessed. So that first one right there is the Kundalini awakening. How I experienced that, I put it into an artwork for me to process it. That was then my yoga teacher training, during my yoga teacher training. I felt like a burning sensation, like the whole spine was electrocuted and was going through. But I was experiencing that not just at that time, for a couple of days, it kind of stretched into a week. And because I was already aware of what was happening, I was showing myself and teaching myself to hold space. And when the energy came out, it came out with the shape of a serpent with multiple heads. That was creepy and scary for me. Like, what do I do right now, right? So that was my drawing. And this happened, I think, last August. I was listening to a podcast about an energy healer, and I was just doing my stuff busy. And there was a time I went to sit and work on my computer. And as I was sitting down, I felt a presence. So I was looking to checking the presence. I looked up and I was like, whoa, what the heck is this? It's like taller than me, right? And being a short person, I already have that, really short people here, we know how people are tall, and that sensation is unsettling. And this face showed up. So it's basically fully white, like bioenergetic formation. And the eyes like a mechanical thing and kept moving like a camera. And there was something spinning in the head, kept moving, and it was telepathically communicating with me. And I was like, oh, geez, I have clients today, and what am I supposed to do with this, right? So I just had a conversation, let's work with this later, because right now you're freaking me out. I do not know what you are, because I, had to check and see what energy it has, right? So I immediately drew it so I would not forget about it. Because as time passed by, I forgot about it. If I don't look at the picture, then I don't normalize myself, right? Okay? Okay, so these are the experiences, participation, and see if we can just pull that. So basically people's, the stats that showed up. And when I talk about the stats, I had 365 surveys done. So 365 does not represent the entire population, right? And wherever I put, the surveys went through my university listserv and all the people, in the clinical setting, it was very low. And I wanted to get at least 250 to kind of push it forward. And I went on Reddit, and people told me, go on Reddit. And I got those numbers increased. But I also got attacked at Reddit for the survey, right? Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so maybe if you all can zoom this up a little bit. So you all can go through these numbers. I'm not going to go this per line. The question is people they're experiencing, 39% are experiencing on a daily basis, 25% in a weekly, and occasionally 24%. 39% is so high. And this is just 365 people, right? And the causes could be, I want to know if it was a lineage thing, because sometimes, and yesterday, I think John also has spoken about learning things at a very young age, the lineage, we have that already in us, right? So the causes can be anything, lineage, psychedelics, and substances. Now, psychedelics is just taken up so fast. What are we doing with people who experience spiritual experiences that is beyond their belief system, right? Are we prepared to help them process that? Psychedelics, when people are taking it under supervision, that could be with a mental health or a medical person, but there are very young people are taking it. And they take it for raves and dances, and suddenly they reach a peak. And I work with young clients, and I put it in my intake to ask them. I have to assess without asking them directly, because also knowing that psychedelics is still illegal. And I want to break that for us to have conversation for them for the healing to happen, right? So I kind of found my way, and there's no assessment. So there are many things I'm talking about. There are no assessments. So there are opportunities for y'all or collaboration to look for assessments when the thing happens. Let's step into that, okay? And look at this one, the individual who shared the information with their therapist, okay? And felt heard. 40% has never discussed it. I've been working with clients who have shared that and got backlashed and retrieved, never went for therapy till this crisis in their later lives. I have people told in therapies that they're having all these diagnoses. So diagnosis I was told I have schizophrenia and psychotic episodes in academia. And I refused to accept that, and I did not get medicated with my experiences. But someone who experiences life in the altered state, or in this, right? And imagine if you're pregnant, you're having a life within you, the sensory things that increases and increases. What I'm trying to bring is awareness of just not to keep it just in the mind, as we do, to analyze and for researchers. We need to consider the entire human being, what happens and how we live our life, right? So I really consider that my blessing. for not being diagnosed by a professional, because it would have been, I would have really been medicated, and I would be forced by my family members to take it, right? So for coping, on the survey I asked people about their coping, and you can see, okay, coping was diagnosis that they received, depression, anxiety, and as I say, we need to look more into it than just giving diagnosis. So healthcare professionals need to be trained, need to normalize those conversations, and not just to be lost into that. It feels like a space of that unwantedness, no one wants to go there kind of a thing, right? That just came to me right now. And behaviors were showing up, suicidal thoughts, suicide attempts, self-harming tendencies. Imagine living your life with the suicidal thoughts most of the time at 82%. We really need to look into this, right? Yeah? And as I said, these are just raw stats. I'm just plugging it from Qualtrics and plugged it in here. And my research has been like a solo journey. And at this time, I want to collaborate and have conversations and go back and forth. And see like where that space, how that goes. Okay, and coping strategies right here. People listed as food, alcohol, sedatives, prescription meds, psychedelics. That's very questionable in that state. Support groups, it helps. People use sex for coping, journaling, prayers, meditation, and all this part that shows right there. And I'm curious about the 24% others unspecified. I did not know that this was going on and on. I'm curious to unpack that part of it. You see how it has its own seedlings happening here, right? Someone. Okay, and challenges. So challenges for healthcare professionals lacking training. That is where we need to look into, right? To look into that, we also need to normalize paranormal experiences. And we also, therapists need to step up for themselves if their experiences too. Like for me, for example, I experienced this. So I'm going to give you some case scenarios here, okay? And how there's no training, there is no supervision and all those things in that. So my supervision, when I was getting my practicals for, as a clinician, right? I had a young kid I was working with. And he kind of came from his own complex trauma background. Parents were divorced and there was like custody battle going on back and forth. And also another part was parents were narcissists to the highest level too. And he as a kid, there were a couple of siblings. I'm going to be careful not to put much information there out. And so we were sitting down. When I work with kids, I'm on the floor doing all those things very, kid-centered. We were playing Uno. We were playing Uno. There was a small coffee table. He was like down. I was sitting on, under the ball. And I was right into that, having fun playing Uno. Out of nowhere, oh my goodness, from his belly, something very black with tentacles just came out and started grabbing me and attacking me. And I'm there, holy crap, what am I to do? Like, what is, and I was having an episodic event right there, right? And then I was like, okay, let me just, and this is like 10 years ago. Like now at least Caroline can speak more about it. That time I was still in my chair. And I was like, holy priest, like, holy Jesus Christ, help me. And whatever I could use and think of, I started kind of, talking with, I had to communicate with that creature right there. And this guy's, and he gave me a look. So when he gave me a look, I picked up on some other information. So there's some kind of an awareness there, right there, right? So whatever it is, like my magical spell trying to shoo this thing away, it took me, felt like hours, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that long, and to clear that off. So we cleared that off, the kids started playing and smiling, and I was so exhausted from this session. So I went to my supervisor and I kind of processed that. Like, what do you mean? And all those things, right? And I did go to a supervisor who was actually, presented as holistic and trauma-informed and all those things. So that was my experience. But kid you not, after that incident, weeks or months later, the child started working more on focusing on his healing process. And he shared stuff he was experiencing, some abuse and stuff that had never come in years of therapy. And I was new to this kid because he went to different therapists too. So I use that now as something that I can work through to help the person better, right? So we need supervision, supervisors, more who are able to or willing to help with this. Okay? So that is, we need a lot of training in that matter. And of course, I would love to write all these things, and I was like, I think I'm going to start focusing on that part of it, to breathe through the space for me to write and not commit social suicide. How do we even do this, right? If you all have any thoughts and ideas, right, to let me know how to have this conversation. My entire journey to get my PhD was to prove to the world and myself that I'm not crazy. Dang it, that has been my journey, right? Okay? Okay, so the participants' comments. This is, as I said, a very brief survey. All I needed to know, the level of trust. Some of them are shared, some of them have not shared. The comments from people, and I had refused to go through my emails, that email link that we give to, because it was too much for me to process. Some people are thanking you, some people are so happy we're having this conversation, and some people are just blasting you. I wonder if they even took the survey, right? Yeah, so these are the conversations. One was a therapist, and she's saying, I'm not, she talks about she is ADHD and OCD. My question is, if she's experiencing all life in the transliminal, right? We are going to be diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, and many other things. Because it does happen. So, yeah, and people are kind of blasting that. All I asked was a level of trust in healthcare professionals and nothing else. And I intentionally did not engage in going back and forth. I just wanted the stats to kind of show up, right? Because imagine if I was engaging back and forth, I would not want to be lost in that world. Because we are all opinionated, we know it's like touching a hotline wire, right? So again, there's lots of space for research and for processing and for really investigating in this. Yeah, someone sent me, I think at least 2 pages of an email going back through all whatever that person thought was wrong with me because I asked those questions. I'm like, can we just take the damn survey and just get done with it, right? Yeah, so that has been the experience, and any thoughts and any conversations are welcome. Help me process these things. So the similarity between trauma and spiritually transformative experiences are very too aligned. And that's where I bring for me to find a gateway to bring this conversation is through trauma-based and that information to actually see the signs that we could miss. And engaging in just conversational part of it is, I feel like that's more important for me. I like narrative storytelling and processing through stories, right? That's the time we can kind of hear each other and be in each other's spaces. And we can, when we kind of are heard and seen, our trauma has a space to heal. Because trauma also creates shame, right? And shame festers and breeds in silence and in the darkness. The same thing goes for spiritually transformative experiences. If you're shamed and you're guilted, it festers in the darkness. And then we can be subjected to more negative entities. That's a whole different conversation that will fall in your field, right? Yeah. So I'm just inviting y'all to have this openness and have conversations in whichever places that you can. Even in places sometimes it does not feel safe, finding a way to bring in a conversation and see where it lands. And they could take it like a seed that's going to be planted, right? And that's how I've been figuring out my existence. To put just a whisper or a step, and having the courage to talk more about that. Okay, and then from pathologizing to paranormalizing. I still have to sit with that word. Just pull it from the ether to say, how am I going to present this thing? So I just put in a word. I need to still sit with it to see how it resonates for me as a language and to talk more about it, right? See, often harm comes from being alone with the experience. And the loneliness can also be experienced in the family system. And I do kind of work up with family system. Because there could be one child, or one child or a group of people that they either become like the party trick. Oh, look what Caroline can do. Can you just do that? Can you just read my aura? Or can you do that, right? Or saying that there's something really wrong with you and just go to your room, right? Or in my case, take you to the priest. Yeah? Okay. So, it's showing in my research, dissertation research that it was actually not based on paranormal. It was based on wounded healers, clinicians, and licensed clinicians who used psychedelics. It was very intentional because there was no research done on that. And when I put out a flyer for my dissertation, within 2 weeks, I had 70 people sign up. I needed 8 people because I was doing narrative inquiry. So you can imagine like how many people want to talk. But out of that, I interviewed 40 and I was maxed out. I didn't expect the complex trauma to show up in the interviews. So holding space for the complex trauma, seeing everything in the spiritual, that was something, again, I still have to unpack that. I just defend it, right? As a wounded researcher, so I learned what does it mean to be a wounded researcher and step into this. To see experiencing people in one-on-one as a human being, experiencing their shared interview space, and experiencing whoever wants to talk in the spirit world, wants to communicate, to tell them something when I'm interviewing them, or the things that they have done, that I have a vision of the experiences. I had a veteran who was in my study, and he was processing. He was not processing. He was actually just sharing information, and being in war, we kind of can imagine stories that could come up. But I was having visions of the stories, so I had to regulate myself just to be present there when he broke down 5 times, and we didn't complete the interview. Right? So trauma shows in very different ways. Energetically, it also stays with us. Energy is also vibration. Vibration is also unseen information, right? And in the end, for my dissertation part of it, when I investigated their lives before the psychedelic experiences and after, their personal life, their spiritual life, and their professional life. Everything kind of comes to, we can blur our life. Everything becomes personal. We might try to separate it, and we think we separate it. But when we separate too, we're also causing a friction within ourselves, right? And the healing was happening in the altered state of mind. Because for our healing, we need to step out of whatever we're experiencing. And some individuals need extra support, and that's where the psychedelics can come in, right? And the metaphysical self, that's another point that kind of showed up. That's where I noticed the healing part. Again, there's so many things to analyze. Okay, so I'm thinking, Caroline is always thinking, creating all these bubbles of research topics, right? So I'm thinking about what if psyche is the consciousness in the mind, the gray matter, and cosmos is the energy and everything that's around us. And when I didn't have time to draw and paint what I was thinking, so I just asked ChatGPT to create that. After arguments of going back and forth, that's what I kind of like. So the female version is cosmos, and the psyche is the male. You cannot separate psychology and spirituality. If we separate that, we're splitting ourselves. The mind and the body and the spirit are connected. So, I don't know, maybe that's a theory, whatever's forming with that. So I just request not to separate, to integrate, even if you're talking about research and parts of us that actually works with the gray brain matter, right? Can we give some soul and heart to that conversation too? That's where this comes from. And there's a little quote there I put up. Many extraordinary experiences don't become wounds because they are frightening. They become wounds because they are unsafe. Right? When participation is mistaken for pathology, people learn to hide their light. So may all our lights shine in many different ways, all the hidden light, we shining more. Francis. Yeah. Any questions, thoughts, suggestions? It must be quite a bit that I just put out there. Right, yes.
I'm going to try and say this without crying. There's so many times during your presentation where it resonated with me so deeply, especially the being shamed for having abilities and having these kind of experiences and not having a safe space to talk about it. I've been to multiple therapists and have never felt safe talking about it. And even if they are safe to talk about other things, that particular subject, they aren't educated in it. And they may not be mean, I've had some that have been mean, but they don't know how to address it. And I feel like that needs to be talked about more. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up. I don't hear that effort. And it's really refreshing to hear someone stand up for it. So,
Yeah. Thank you for that. You know, that we need to have more education and ethical education too, because it's very easy to go into a kind of different world and unprocessed things show as educators and as therapists too, clinicians. So we really need to heal ourselves first before even go into this. But we have to have the willingness to step into this. Because as I said, you see the numbers of, these are just rough numbers. You know, I just did that because I could not find numbers to have a conversation, right? Otherwise, I'm just kind of going off the air. That's why I did the survey. We need a lot of work to be done. So what can we collaborative can work on, right? Education, just putting some blast out there, but with ethical, grounded education. Because I see in the spaces that I've been, in leadership spaces and other things, that a lot of stuff shows up that is unethical boundary, and even the psychedelics work. And if you all kind of know, there's a lot of abuse that has showed up too. The very fact that people have to travel out of the country to get some healing. It's also expensive, we can't do this. For me, I was just saying my whole journey has been guided by some beings that I got scholarships to do this, others I would have not been able to do anything. Another part of me, I refuse like that, because I'm trying to prove myself sane. I think it comes from there. When people have journal articles and all, I just feel jaded at times to go through the same thing over and over. So we need to look in things differently and look into humanizing it. I guess that's what I want to say. So thank you. Yes. Any other?
I would
yes.
reiterate the same point. As I told in my talk on Friday, my father was a psychiatrist. He died in the late 70s, back before psychiatrists just became pill pushers like they are today, but when they actually did psychotherapy. But he had no place to put any of this. You know? And I grew up having all sorts of these experiences, starting as early as I remember as age 3, and I was instructed by the voices in my head, don't tell your parents, they're not old enough to know. And so I grew up, you know, not being able to discuss these things with anybody. First person I met I could open up to, but it was Bob Monroe years later. And so, yeah, this is something that's very much needed.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Such untold story of that pointer, right? When you were able to talk about this freely with somebody, and from there life would look different. What about that life before that, right? And when I talk about complex trauma, that developmental stages, we live with that throughout our life. We just learn to compartmentalize, right? Then you can see the chaos in our relationship. It shows in our relationship, either with ourselves or with others. And when you have children, goodness gracious, there's no books of parenting is going to help us if we don't take care of ourselves, right? Yeah. Yes.
I just want to mention there is